And then I just need one person to look up Psalm 139. If you're gonna, thank you. This morning we're going to talk about exactly what he was talking on there, what he was singing about. And I'm just going to be very blunt and very honest. And I'm going to tell you apart some things about myself and just kind of reveal some things. And I'm really praying that, you know, wherever you're at in your life and whatever's happening at home and whatever's happening around you, I really am praying that this weekend will be something that God would just really, he'll really reveal himself to you. I think there's so many things that are happening in young people's lives, and I think so many things, like in my own life, after my accident, after all the things that happened to me, there was a lot of lies that I heard. I heard, you know, that I was a murderer, that I was a lot of things, and there was a lot of stuff that I was believing. And just to be really honest, I did reach a point, like a pivotal point before I met my mentor. And this point was where I was ready to just like end it all. Like I reached this point, it was 7 years after the accident. I was so broken, I was so angry. I just didn't understand, because to me, I was looking at the world and I was going, you know, God, I see so many evil people in the world. I see so many bad people in the world. And they're living to be 80, 90, 100 years old. They're living these full lives. And yet, here's this kid, my best friend, who all he wanted to be in life was a missionary, and you take him. You take him from this world. You take him from me. And 7 years in, I was just like, I'm done. And when I met my mentor, as we started talking, he said, Shane, if I would have known you a couple years ago, I would have had you Baker acted. He was just being very honest. He's like, I would have had you Baker acted. He's like, because there's certain things that you have to look for as a person. And he's like, you had the desire, you wanted to kill yourself, you had the way that you could kill yourself, and you were ready. And when I met him, it was like, we just sat and we started talking, and he just allowed me to open myself up. He allowed me to get down to the truth of it all. But for me, this is what I felt. I felt like, what is the point in this, God? Because this is all I saw. You ready? All I saw was that because of my mistake, a mother and a father lost their son. A sister lost her brother. A grandmother lost her grandson. Not just me, but many other people who loved and cared for Chris lost a best friend. The sister is now married. She has kids. That means they don't have an uncle. You know, my mistake didn't just affect one person. It affected a group of people. And you see, what your generation has grown up is going, you do you and I do me. The problem is that what you do, it doesn't just affect you, it affects all the people around you. Your sin doesn't just affect you, it affects all the people around you. Your mistake doesn't just affect you, it affects everybody around you. And what we don't realize is that that's what life was meant to be, though. Because in Genesis, it was when God looks down and he goes, it's not good for man to be what? To be what? To be alone. So we were designed for relationship. We were designed for relationship with Christ. We were designed for relationship with God. Adam and Eve walked with God during the cool of the day. Let's think about that for a minute. If God himself came down to you this morning and said, hey, take a walk with me, would you take a walk with him, or you'd be like, no, I'm good, God? And during the cool of the day, God comes down and he's walking and talking with Adam and Eve, and he's like, what's going on? What animal did you name today? And he's like, oh, you know, the lion. He called it a lion. Oh, cool. What'd you do today? Oh, you know, we went swimming, ate some fruit, had some vegetables, you know, got our fill. God would come down and walk with them, and they threw it all away. And because of their sin, and this is how you got to see how it affects everybody, because of what they did, the things we have going on in our lives are happening. The world is falling apart around us because of them. Because of two people. Because of two people. So you want to say your sins and everything, it doesn't affect people? It does. And here's the thing, right? As I sat and talked and opened up with another friend of mine years ago, and I just really opened up to her. We were sitting down and we were drinking coffee, and I told her what was happening, and I told her where I was at, and I finally opened up and told her that this is where I was at when I met my mentor, Ron. And she's like, you know, Shane, I kind of knew you were at that point. She's like, and my heart would have broke if you did it. She's like, I don't know what I would have done. She's like, because you did all these things, and you did this, and you did that, and so we think, and I think some of you guys are there now, or you've been there in your life, where you're going, you know what, it's better if I just wasn't here. It'd be better for my parents if I just wasn't here. It'd be better for my friends if I just wasn't here. And you're believing the lie of the enemy. That's the problem, is you're believing the lie of the enemy. As he's whispering into your ear, and he's going, listen, you're no good, you're this, you're that. You guys begin to believe it, and you begin to take it to heart. So in John chapter 8, we're going to start in 41. They answered and said to him, Abraham is our father. Jesus said to them, if you are Abraham's children, do the deeds of Abraham. But as it is, you are seeking to kill me, a man who has told you the truth, which I heard from God. This Abraham did not do. You are doing the deeds of your father. They said to him, we were not born of fornications. We have one Father, God. Jesus said to them, if God were your father, you would love me. For I proceeded forth and have come from God. For I have not even come on my own initiative, but he sent me. Why do you not understand what I am saying? It is because you cannot hear my word. You are of your father the devil, and you want to do the desires of your father. He was a murderer from the beginning and does not stand in the truth, because there is no truth in him. Whatever he speaks is a lie. He speaks from his own nature, for he is a liar and the father of lies. So, you got Jesus talking, and he's like, listen, you guys are listening to the father of lies. And he's like, but what I'm telling you is the truth. You see, here's what happened, right? You guys ready for this? Here's what happened in my life. For me, life got so dark. The best way I could put it is what somebody once told me. He said, it's like you're painting this perfect picture. And you got this beautiful picture in front of you, and you're painting this awesome picture, and it's your life. Right? And so I got this awesome life, right? I got a raise. I moved up in the organization I was working in, and all these things were happening. I was dating this crazy redhead. Boys, if you ever need to get a little crazy in your life, date a redhead.
Yes, sir.
Try it once. Just try it once. Listen, just try it once, it'll change your life. I'm not gonna lie. But listen, things were going great. Things were going great. I was a youth pastor at a church, and our youth group was growing. But I don't mean just growing physically. Like, they were growing in their love for God. They were growing in the truth for God. I mean, these kids loved God with a passion that I didn't even have at their age. And these kids were passionate about it. And that's when that kid tells me, hey, I want to be a missionary one day. I had other people who were like, man, I'm going to be a pastor. Man, I just want to serve God, and I want to know how I can serve God. So I'm talking about, I'm at cloud 9 right now. And in one instant, all of it was taken away. In one instant, it was all taken away. One mistake, it was all taken away. And it was as if I'm painting this picture, and now someone comes with black paint and just goes all over my painting. Because all I can see is black. There's no hope. There's no light at the end of the tunnel. And that's what I would tell people. Don't tell me about a light at the end of the tunnel. Let me tell you about a light at the end of the tunnel. Because this is what it is. Don't tell me about God's love, because God don't love me. If he loved me, he wouldn't have let it happen. How many of you guys have said that before? Don't tell me that God loves me. And everything about me changed in that moment. And I started to listen to the lies of the enemy. My mentor always says, he goes, kids have secrets, people have secrets, and they keep those secrets. And many times they don't need to keep the secrets, they need to tell somebody. But see, the enemy goes, hey, you can't tell that secret, because if people know, they're going to think differently of you. You cannot tell kids that you are suicidal. You cannot tell them that. Because if you do, it will change their view of you. You cannot be truthful with people, because if you do, it will change the way they think about you. So listen to me. You have to keep it a secret. And we hear the lies, and it's coming from all ends of it. And for some of you, it's not just whispers in your ear. For some of you, it's your parents. For some of you, it's your friends. For some of you, it's been teachers. For some of you, it's been coaches. For others of you, it's just been somebody you met. But I want to tell you something. At the end of the day, you believe him, or do you believe the truth? We sit here and we look at, I told you yesterday, I told one kid just one time, if I had a son, I want him to be just like you. And his whole life, you want to know why it changed his life? Because his whole life, all he wanted to do was please his father. His father wanted nothing to do with him. And in one moment it changed, because all of a sudden he realized it's not me, it's him. When you believe the lie, that's what happens. And we sit here and you hear people, I've talked to kids who told me, man, you know, my parents told me I was a mistake. I talked to one kid, he goes, Shane, do you know? And it was right here at camp one year. And I'm sitting down with him at the bowl. And I tell you what, you would have seen him, happiest kid. You would have never thought anything about it. And one day he pulls me aside, we're down at the bowl. He's like, can I talk to you? I said, yeah. He said, I want to tell you. I want to tell you something. And I said, go ahead. He said, just this summer, my parents told me that they never wanted me. And they pulled up and they dropped me off at my grandparents' house. He said, just this summer. He goes, it just happened. He said, they never wanted me. They told me that. And he was a great kid. And he started to believe the lies. You're not good enough. You're not worthy to be loved. And all we hear is this negativity just beating us down, beating us down, beating us down. So I got this black canvas in front of me. I just don't know what to do. And you're fighting for breath. Have you ever been in that moment where you're fighting to breathe? You just, to wake up in the morning, that's all the energy you have. To just wake up in the morning is all the energy you have. Or have you ever had that night where you've cried yourself to sleep and you got 2 hours of sleep and that's it? You got to wake up in the morning. Have you ever had that moment where it's just, no matter how hard you try, you just can't do it. You can't do anything. Going to school, it's not something you want. You don't want to be around your friends. You don't want to be around anyone. You just want to sit in your room with the lights turned off and the shades drawn and let the world pass you by. U2 wrote a song and he says, you got yourself stuck in a moment and now you can't get out of it. That's just one line. He said, now you're stuck in a moment and you can't get out of it. I was stuck in one moment in time. Just one moment. And the world passed me by. And I saw everybody around me. And they're moving on with their lives and they're doing great things and they're getting married and they're having kids. And I'm just looking and I'm going, this is pointless, God. My life is pointless. And when I met my mentor, he sat with me and he's like, you want to believe the lies of the enemy or do you want to believe the truth? A pastor told me this years ago. He said, the day you got saved, Satan lost his hold on you. The day you got saved. So the next best thing is to make you an ineffective Christian. And the only way he could do that is by throwing all these things at you. I want to tell you something. There's nowhere in the Bible that it says God will never give you more than you can handle. It's not in there. Everybody know the story of Job? Anybody? Does anyone not know the story? Does everybody know the story? Okay, so let me ask you a question. Who said Job could handle it? Who said? And one day he lost his kids. And one day he lost all his money. He lost everything. Because back then, cattle, land, that's what mattered. That's what made you rich. So he lost all his money. And then one day he has his great wife come up and go, why don't you curse God and die? I mean, that's an awesome wife, right? I hope you guys marry someone like that one day, right? And his best friends are giving him horrible advice. So in one day, he loses all these things, and he's losing it, one day at a time, one day at a time, one day at a time. Then he gets boils all over his body. The only thing God ever said was, he will not curse me. He will not curse me. That's the only thing God ever said. This is why things come into your life. Because you will either lean on your own strength or you will lean on God's strength. And I will tell you this, you lean on your own strength, you will fail. You will fall. I don't understand how we've gotten to a place in this country and in this society where we can look at it and go 10 to 24-year-olds. It is the number 3 killer. Suicide is the number 3 killer. I don't understand how we got to that point here. I don't understand how we've gotten to the point where you guys can't handle life. I don't understand. And I keep trying to wrap my mind around it. I've been in the place where the darkest moment is just so dark. And all you're trying to do is to reach out for a hand. That's it. You're at the lowest point of your life and your hand is up and you're just going, somebody's got to grab me. I don't understand. And then along comes this mentor, this guy who comes up and he goes, here, I'm going to help you. And you're going to have to cry. You're going to have to get angry. All this stuff is going to have to happen, Shane, because in order for us to move on and let God heal you, this has to happen. But we first got to stop believing the lies. So what is the truth? Psalm 139. Who looked it up? Do me a favor, read verses 13 through 16.
For you formed my inward parts. You covered me in my mother's womb. I will praise you, for I am fearful and wonderfully made. Marvelous are your works, and my soul knows very well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was made in secret and skillfully wove in the lowest parts of the earth. My eyes saw my substance being yet unformed. And in your book they are all written, the days fashioned for me, when as yet there were none of them.
Okay. You hear that? The phrase that always sticks out to me is, you are fearfully and wonderfully made. The psalmist is saying, listen, you knew me as you formed me. There's no such thing as a mistake. If you've heard your entire life, if anyone, and you don't have to be honest, you can be honest if you want. If you've ever heard in your life that you were a mistake, first of all, you weren't a mistake. God doesn't make mistakes. For instance, my cousin, some of you guys have heard me talk about him. He's got Down syndrome. And he is the most awesome kid. He is the most awesome kid. He's 24 years old now, and he is so awesome, man. I love that kid to death. How do you explain to a Down syndrome kid that your mom's not coming home? She's gone. She died. How do you do it? And somewhere along the way, we had to figure out a way to get him to understand it. But when I see him, and I see his smile, and I see him come up and hug me, it lets me know that God doesn't make mistakes. You see the picture? God paints the picture. So as this black filled this canvas, I had to decide, do I stay here in this moment? How do I move? And as my mentor started to pull me out, I started to paint a new picture. And as I'm painting this picture, I'm seeing kids that I'm working with, all this stuff. There's things going on in my life, and I'm knowing like, hey, this wasn't a mistake. I'm seeing how my story sometimes changes people when I get to sit down and talk to them. I see how all this stuff is working. I see how what Satan meant for evil, God turned into good. We have to learn the truth. Brennan Manning said this: define yourself radically as one beloved by God. This is the true self. Every other identity is illusion. God's love for you and his choice of you constitutes your worth. I'm going to read that again for you, and I want you to think about it. Define yourself radically as one beloved by God. This is the true self. Every other identity is illusion. God's love for you and his choice of you constitutes your worth. When I was a kid, my mom had a picture hanging. And it said, I asked Christ, how much do you love me? And he said, this much. And he stretched out his arms and died. I used to think that was the corniest picture in the world. Until the truth really hit. You see, some of you, you've let your worth be defined by the people around you. You've let your worth be defined by the lies that the enemy has told you, by the lies that your parents have told you, by the lies that people... You let your worth be told by that. But when you define yourself and you go, I am radically loved by Christ, Christ loves me, God loves me. When you start to change that view, that's the only way that you begin to find your true worth. You see, some of you right now, you're in the darkest place in your life. And you're questioning God. Does God exist? Is he real? Does he love me? Am I worth anything? And you're asking these questions, and I want to tell you something. God loves you exactly as you are. Brendan Manning said that too. He said, God loves you exactly as you are, not as you should be. Because the truth is, we will never be as we should be. I know, sometimes you look up in the sky and you're just like, well, God, you can show me anytime today. And we want a physical. You know, my mentor told me that. He goes, kids and people, they need a physical Jesus in their life. Right? You need a physical Jesus in your life. Well, I want to tell you something. You got them all around you. You got your pastors, you got people who care about you, who love you, you got counselors here. These counselors don't have to be here. Listen, I was a counselor for a long time. I work with 11-year-olds now. And I can tell you, I don't do it because they're cool. They're 11. They're not legal to drink. They're 11. I do it because I love to work with kids. And I really do love them. They're a wild bunch of boys. They make me laugh. They drive me crazy and they make me laugh. Every day I get balder because of them. When I came here, I had some hair on my head. I didn't shave this morning, just to let you know. Think about it. I do it because I love them. And because I know that for some of them, I'm the only Jesus they'll see. And my prayer is always the same, that at some point in their life, they'll be able to look back at the moments that we were together. Like a lot of the 15-year-olds and 16-year-olds, people like Corey, like Israel, that I've taken out to lunch and we've had some great conversations. That one day they'll look back at their life and they'll go, man, I was loved. Shane loved me. That's always my prayer. I'm not big on the word, I love you. I'm not big on words. I don't believe in words. Just to tell you that. Because someone can tell you I love you to your face and then stab you in the back. And so for me, it doesn't work that way. I'm big on the action. On talking to you, on sitting with you, on having lunch with you, and dinner with you, on caring for you, on going to your games. Those type of things. That's the way I've always been my entire life. I want to show the love. I don't want to say it. Because let's face it, these counselors, myself, the people in your life who know Christ, they may be the only Jesus you ever see.